the last question I wanted to ask to you as a Star Wars fan, because I know you think I hate Star Wars.
You do, yeah.
But this does kind of bring up the question a little bit of how much has the saga been planned out?
Not. I think broad strokes, maybe ideas, but I don't think it's been like deeply planned out.
Right.
And
then as a fan, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you have to wait and see how the trilogy turns out before you can really make a judgment. But I on paper, I'm not against it. Giving the directors and the creatives behind it like a lot of wiggle room to kind of do what they want, but while still making them realize that you are telling this part of a story and make sure I think that people are familiar enough with how trilogies are supposed to feel anyway,
right? That
it'll be okay. But at this point, we've only seen one of the 3 movies, so it's hard to. I'll have a better understanding of how to answer that question after I see The Last Jedi.
It's true. I'm kind of siding with you where I think it's a little bit more malleable, maybe even a little bit more so than we originally thought of, like how much of it is planned out. And I'm of two minds about it, but kind of like I feel a certain way, but then I also have a devil's advocate kind of opinion where I think that it is kind of exciting because in the one sense it does add the freedom of where the next story goes. But it also, you do have to be careful with it though, because that is more time that opens up the possibility, the risk that a creator can come in and do something that it's like, well, wait a minute, that like kind of contradicts, or that doesn't quite fit with like how and what was set up, or what was set up and how it was set up.
Well, I think that's what the story group is. So like,
that's what I mean. So it's like that's why
the story group isn't telling people what to do. They're just making sure that what they do makes sense. And I think that's probably the best bet.
And I think that's what people mean by, because there's been all this talk about, does Star Wars need a Kevin Feige character? Or like person, running it, and everybody says that's Kathleen Kennedy. But like Kevin Feige also does kind of oversee and kind of like put thought into, like he's a filmmaker in his own right in the sense that like he kind of also understands the narrative. And I don't know, and I don't want to put words in, I could be completely talking about my ass if Kathleen Kennedy is just like, the producer in terms of like making sure the films get made as opposed to what the actual...
I think she understands the narrative, but I think that they're not putting a lot of too much thought into making sure every little detail is planned out.
I do think that at the end of the day, if the movies deliver, which I think they will for the most part, that it won't be an issue. But that being said, I love The Force Awakens, but there's a sliver of the opinion I had where it's like, well, the Knights of Ren is left very open, like almost like too open, to the point of like there's the argument to be made that maybe a handful of things are left intentionally like left open to be like whatever at the end of the day.
Well, they're left open to, you can do whatever you want. I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
The original trilogy, there was so much like that, right? And even the stuff that was like set up for the prequels, you like the prequels that we got was not an exact match of George Lucas's idea of what that era was like. But when he was making the originals.
Yeah, but the big devil's advocate, and this is actually a genuine opinion I feel,
put Star Wars speculation theme in.
Oh. Where is it?
Star Wars speculation.
Answer my damn question, Days. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to raise my voice.
I mean,
we've been talking about it for like 15 minutes.
Oh, well, it got to be played anyway. But I do think that there is because that is what they, a lot of people say is like, George, despite anything he says,
George Lucas,
he didn't have it all planned out. But at the same time, that was kind of like an organic, like this guy was like making stuff as he goes along.
Kid show.
Yeah.
Talking about orgasms over here.
But, and I think that's a valid, I think that's a valid comparison, but it's a little flawed because you're comparing like this organic way in which this man made this movie with this, studio also having, control over the movie. So it's kind of like, are they trying to control the same type of scenario in which, they don't know what's coming, but then they kind of make something up? It doesn't quite work the same way. And I ultimately side on, I think that it's going to turn out okay. But I understand like the concerns and the risks that you open up by leaving it that much open, I think.
Sure.
But I think it's going to turn out well.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah. All right.
I'm under the impression that it doesn't. I don't think that someone can make a Star Wars or a James Bond movie that I don't enjoy to some degree. I think that's kind of how I feel about life.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that ultimately, like, the story group isn't going to let something that egregious that contradicts something happen, like how something was set up.
Yeah.
Like, it would be like, to me, it would be like the Knights of Ren are set up, but to me, it wouldn't be acceptable if they're just never mentioned again, if that makes sense.
I think that would be acceptable, but I don't think that's going to happen. The only thing, like, if you, like, interjected time travel in the Star Wars, that would upset me. And if you made it so that James Bond was a title and not just a person, that would upset me.
But you see what I mean? Like, they set that up, and that movie doesn't really explain what they are, like the Knights of Ren. And let's say through the next two movies, it's
don't
never
explain it at all.
Yeah, but let's say through the next two movies, it's never brought up again, which I don't think is going to I think they're in this next movie. But that is a little bit of, and the excuse would be, it's like, but there were things in the original trilogy that were, in there but not explained. But it kind of feels like, but when you do it in this new context, it kind of feels inauthentic to be like, let's just put in things in there to like and not explain it, because that's what the original one was, and it doesn't feel, at least to me, that wouldn't feel as authentic. Again, I don't think they're going to do that, but it's something to, it's the risk that you open to play devil's advocate.
I wouldn't have a problem if we never saw the Knights of Ren, but I would want to still know, like, what are the Knights of Ren?
No, that's what I mean. Like, I'm just saying if they were never mentioned again at all, then it would be like,